Darya is back. Hello, Reddit. Want to say straightforward that my English is quite bad. There may be a lot of mistakes. So, you wonder who is Darya? Well, she was my girlfriend when I met in 13 years old. Now I'm 17 years old. We were living a good, happy life. That kissing stuff, walking together, etc. Then, she got in a road accident. She liked motorcycles. She wanted always a big motorcycle. But she was only 15 years old and she wasn't able to get a driver's license for that. So she had some kind of Motorola. I don't know much about motorcycles, but I know it was an Aprilia. I believe 50cc, but not sure. So you may wonder why I talk about her in past tense. That's because she was driving from her girlfriend's back home and got into an accident. When she fell down, she got under car wheels and died instantly. Well, if you think that, I'm typing that with a blank face. That is not true. Actually, it's very hard for me to think about those times. Not meaning that I don't remember. It's just very painful for me. After that, I tried to suicide 4 times. But because of the lack of knowledge on how to do that, I failed all those times and got rescued. It is now 2 years since she is not with us, but you may wonder why I'm typing that in a paranormal subreddit, if that's just a regular death. Okay, let me explain what happened a few months later. So, I went to the countryside to help my neighbors in some casual work. In that time, I helped to load some hay from fields and tractors. So, imagine the rectangle field, approximately 300 to 400 meters, on one little side road, and on the opposite side a little, not a thick forest of spruces and birches. You can actually see through them quite far away, and there's a few little trails inside. Now I will try to tell you what happened. First time, it was in the middle of June. I believe it was the 14th. It was approximately 2 p.m. at the moment, and we were finishing loading hay in the tractor, and then I accidentally looked at the forest and saw that there was a girl standing maybe 20 meters inside the forest. I said to the boys, "Hey, who's standing there?" They laughed a bit and said there's no one there. I looked at them and said, "Come on, fuck your jokes, no one, but now seriously." I started walking to her and my friends too, all the time. She was standing still there. By the way, I have vision problems. I could not identify her at first. When I came closer to her, I felt a bit strange, like someone was watching me. Or you're just in front of my friends. Still said they don't see her. She was looking at me, and after approximately 30 seconds of looking, she started crying a bit. I said, who are you? Are you lost here? She answered nothing but looked at me, and then I realized that is my love, my Darya. At that moment, I sat on my knees and started crying, because I was realizing that it cannot be true. Then I hugged her. I don't know how to explain that feeling. It wasn't just air. Something thick and warm and quite nice. And there was one other thing, very strange feeling. Imagine like electricity in your mouth from the battery. It felt very much the same, but it wasn't pesky, but very nice. Then I heard her. "I'm missing you so hard. I want to be with you always and anywhere. Sad that I can't take you with me." I said, but what happened to you? Where are you all this time? She said, "Sorry, I really love you, but I'll be forever gone if I tell you all. Sorry." And then we both cried and hugged even harder. Then she cleaned my tears and said, "I'm sorry, I have to go now. I'll come to you soon, love you forever." And then she started to run to the forest. We searched for like 2 hours, but couldn't find anything. By the way, if there was someone, we could have easily seen him or her, and yeah, what about my friends? They never saw her, but heard her. As they said, it was like a very quiet whisper, which was repeated a few times, each time the more quiet, like in a very big room. The second time was at the same day, at night. I was always sitting in my phone checking news at VK, Russian social site. When I went to sleep, as always, I want to get some conscious sleep, and I think about her. I fell asleep, and then got up from noise in the house. I got up, went to check. What was that? Came out of my room and she was in the living room, just sitting at the sofa. I sat next to her and said I missed her a lot, and other lovey-dovey stuff. And she said that her life will never be as it was before. "I can kill you, but I love you too much to do that. No, I will be with you forever." I said that, "Yeah, I want you here, darling." Then we talked about casual stuff, and then came to my bed, hugged, and I fell asleep. When I woke up, she wasn't with me anymore. As I checked, every door and window was locked from the inside. I have no clue how she was doing that, but yeah, that's it. And now, it's approximately 3 to 4 times a week I see her. We're talking about some stuff, kissing, and yeah, for others it looks like I'm just kissing the air. I know it's not normal, but I don't know what to do. Maybe someday I'll be dead because of that. P.S. Sorry about the grammar. Thanks for your time. And for reading my story. Hope you got something out of it from that. Feel free to ask me anything. Forest Friend. I don't know why I decided to post this with a throwaway, but I did. I was in the Boy Scouts as a kid, in the South Carolina Low Country. We'd go on campouts about once a month, and one of the campsites we used pretty regularly belonged to a local guy who owned some land way out in the country and let our troops come in for camping. The actual campsite itself was in a wooded area, in the center of a big open field that was maybe 20 acres or so. The guy who owned the land wasn't a full-time farmer, so he had plowed the field, but never planted anything, and the dirt had kind of settled and scrubby grass had started to grow. I don't know. I'm not a farmer. Maybe there's a name for that or something. Anyways, the western edge of the field was a dirt road that had eventually led to the highway. The northern edge was an old field that was planted with trees long enough ago, where the trees were fully grown and it was more or less a forest. The southern used to be a forest, but it was in the process of being turned into farmland, and the trees had all been torn down but not removed, so it was just wasteland of fallen tree trunks and roots. The eastern edge was a swamp, and there's some nasty stuff in swamps in South Carolina, so we never really went to explore it. One night, after the post-dinner cleanup, everyone was kind of settling down for the night, so a few friends and I decided to go for a walk. There's a lone tree out in the field about halfway between the campsite and the western edge of the big field, so we walked out and sat under it. There was a full moon out, so the whole field was lit up in this sort of luminescent glow, and we could see the edges of the field, but not into the forest, swamp, whatever beyond. It was creepy, but kind of cool. We hung out for a while talking, and then we could see lights in our campsite across the field, going out as people started going to sleep, so we decided to head back. We got up to start walking, and I heard one of my friends say, "Who's that?" We all turned to look, and there's this guy, standing perfectly still about 100 feet from us. We could all see his silhouette pretty well, thanks to the full moon, but it was too dark to make out his face. Now, we hadn't seen anyone come from the campsite, but the guy looked like an adult, so we assumed one of the 4 adults who had come on the trip was out looking for us. My friend called out to him, and then it got kind of weird. Something that looked like kind of wings slowly unfolded from the guy's head, and he, still remaining entirely still, let out this long, low, growling, hooting sound, like, imagine if a dog was trying to imitate an owl. We all took off running towards the campsite as fast as we could, and didn't stop until we finally got there. At that moment, I looked back out into the field to see if they were being followed, but the field was empty. We walked around the campsite trying to figure out which adult was messing with us, but they were all in their tents, and nobody had even left the campsite. Nobody believed us, of course. They just assumed we had been out telling scary stories and freaked ourselves out. But I know what I saw. Actually, no, I don't know what I saw, but I know it was nothing we had brought out there with us. Dark house in the woods. I'll start with a typical long-time lurker, first-time poster comment. I've had a few scary encounters in my life. Not sure if that means I'm old or if I'm a creep magnet. Either way. But this one still creeps me out. In the early 80s, when I was 8 years old, my family was visiting my uncle, who lived in backwoods Missouri. He lived on a lot of land, and the only other people who even really lived on the street were relatives. No one else ever just happened to be out there, you know? This meant no one ever locked their doors, because random family members were always coming by for this or that. One night, while we were there, my parents and aunt and uncle decided to go to a nearby town to go bowling because... bowling. My brothers, who were 11 and 12 years old, my female cousins, 6 and 14, and I, female, stayed home. It was still daylight out when the adults left, but it started raining pretty hard and got dark pretty quick. We used to play this game that was essentially hide and seek in the dark house, where we would cleverly call it vampire. There was a thin little mattress on the living room floor that some of the kids would sleep on at nighttime, so the person who was it would lie on the mattress and fold it over themselves like a coffin and count down to midnight. When they got to midnight, they went looking for you again. All the lights are off, and you tried to make it back to the coffin before you got caught. Because the house was in the country, it was pitch black at night. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. What this meant for the game was that 1, you couldn't tell where the vampire was looking, so you just had to make a break for it, and number 2, if you were extremely lazy, and I'm sure by now you can guess which one of us met those standards, you could hide in the living room with a coffin and get to the base quickly. Ben, my 11-year-old brother, was it, and doing the normal countdown. I was hiding maybe 6 feet from him. As he's counting, there's a flash of lightning. I don't know if I was already looking at the living room window, or if the lightning made me look, but with the black light of the lightning, I see a man with his face against the window. He had his hands on each side of his face, as if he's trying to peer in and look exactly like the stereotypical creepster, heavy-set, straggly beard, etc. I could feel every hair on my body standing on end. Immediately, I began to try to convince myself that I didn't see what I saw, but then Ben sternly whispered, "If anyone is hiding here, stay still." I sort of croaked out that, I'm here, right as there was another flash of lightning. Creepster was still there, but was no longer trying to look in the window. Instead, he was looking now towards the front door. Ben and I immediately knew what was coming next. From where he was standing at that moment, Creepster was probably only 5 feet or so away from the front door. Ben was the same distance as that, but there was a couch between him and the door. Ben leapt over the couch and locked the door right as Creepster tried jiggling the handle. At this point, I guess Ben decided that it was best to let Creepster know that people were home and that we knew that he was there, because he flipped on the porch light and then started turning on the lights in the house. This is going to sound weird, but I was too terrified to panic. Having said that, I was relying completely on Ben to know and tell me what to do. He told me to go lock the doors, all the other ones, and was yelling for everyone else to come out and lock all the windows as well, because there was danger outside. Honestly, the next few minutes are hazy in my mind now. I remember everything up until this point extremely clearly. Then I remember the end very clearly, but I'm less clear about the middle part. I know that I locked the side door and then the sliding glass door on the back of the house. When we've talked about it over the years, some people remember us seeing him out the back door as well. I don't remember that. What I clearly recall is locking the sliding glass door and standing there frozen and hearing Ben, in a very calm but firm voice, say, "Close the curtain. Listen to me, okay? Close the curtain." So I did. Ben can't remember that part, and I just remember my fear and Ben's voice. So I'm not sure if I saw a creepster in the backyard or not. We tried to call the police, but my aunt and uncle had a stupid party line and it wouldn't work, whether from the storm or from a neighbor leaving it off the hook or whatever. For the record, they are the only people I've ever known with a party line, so this wasn't normal to me either. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's really rural areas. Multiple people on the streets would actually share a phone line. It would have different rings for different households, but you could pick up the phone and listen to your neighbors' conversations. We also tried to summon help on my uncle's CB radio, but could not reach anyone. My uncle was a hunter, so he had a gun rack full of rifles and other stuff, but my older cousin was on an out-of-town hunting trip and took them with him. All we could find was a BB gun that looked like a real rifle. I remember vividly Ben putting me on phone duty and Scott, my older brother, on CB duty, while he stood watch at the little square window at the front door with a BB gun. Maybe 30 minutes later, Ben said, "He's back. He's coming out the driveway." The rest of us froze in fear. But Ben opened the front door and stepped out onto the porch, pointed the gun and said, "Get out of here right now." Then we hear our cousin Kyle, who lived down the road a bit, said, "You know that's a BB gun, right?" Even though Kyle was only 15 years old. I remember that we felt like we had been saved when he showed up. Cal seemed really skeptical of our story, like we were all playing a grand trick on him, even though we had no idea that he was coming at all. But he stayed with us until our parents came home. Honestly, I don't remember if we even told our parents what happened that night when they got home. There was definitely no police involvement, though, to be honest. We just went on with our trip and went on with our day. But we never played vampire again without some mention of that night. Edit. I just talked to Ben. Firstly, he does not have an account, but is so pleased that everyone thinks he handled himself well. Secondly, he said the story was pretty spot on to how he himself remembers it, but that the guy was at the back door. When we talked about it before, I thought he didn't remember that part, so I was confused on that. He said that as I was locking the side door, we saw a creepster moving around to the back of the house. So Ben told me to hurry and lock the sliding glass door. Those doors are right around the corner from each other, so I was closest, according to Ben, and this is what I thought happened, but I just didn't want to say it unless I was positive. As soon as I flipped the lock on the back door, the guy was standing there, just looking at me. I just stood there for a couple of beats looking at him, and that's when Ben told me to close the curtain. We also saw him in the front yard one more time after that. I remember this all along, but wanted to check with Ben to make sure he also remembered it before I added it in. It was a large front yard with a long gravel driveway. Off to one side of the driveway, quite a ways from the house, was a spot where my cousins parked cars they were working on. I know, so stereotypical. While we were on watch, we saw a creepster messing with one of the cars. It was actually Kyle's. When he couldn't get it started, he walked into the woods and ran beside the house. We didn't see him again after that.